Hey kids, follow up from the day later. I missed something in yesterday's recording. One thing I'd like you to do in your assignment is to make a function or a sub that repeats the functionality so that you're not copying and pasting code. So the example I'm going to show you here, notice how when we're deciding how many numbers to average, there's a big similarity to actually inputting the number. So the three steps that are being repeated here is some kind of text prompting the user, asking could be how many numbers would you like to average, or what's the actual number itself, so some text there. It pulls a line of text from the reader, it's exactly the same in both spots, and then the number gets converted to an integer and it gets put into either count or into inputs. So some major similarities here. So let's make a function that's going to accomplish that, and we can use it in both of those two places so that we don't have the same thing repeated twice. So let's come down to the bottom here. Let's make a public because it's going to be able to be used anywhere. Everything we've done so far is a static type here. Not going to explain the details today. Just put static. And in my example here, this is going to create an int because inputs I is one of those ints in the array, and then the other one here, count, is also an int. So it's going to spit back an int. Now let's give it a name. So I'm going to call it prompt and get number. And in order to do this, we need to give it a string, which is the prompt, the buffered reader to pull from, and once it's done, it's going to return us back the int. So that can go either into inputs I in the second case, or it can go into count in the first place. And now we're going to copy and paste these lines of code and create something like that. So I'm just going to start by doing a copy and paste here, and we're going to make some modifications. So the prompt is going to get print lined out, and then the text gets read from the console. So we just need a variable called text to put that in. Really important, if you've got a variable called text in here, it's not going to be the same one as it is inside of the other function. They're separate. And then it gets put into either count or inputs. I'm going to call mine result here, and let's declare it as an int. And once you get to the bottom of it, return the result. Now, like before, remember we had it throwing an IO exception before in the first example here. That code has been moved into here, so now we're just going to throw it from here, and that's fine. So now let's change our two blocks of code so that they use this sub instead of having the code copied and pasted. So in the first example here, here's our prompt, and the reader is just called reader, and it goes into count. So count is equal to prompt, and now with control space to auto-complete it here, you just need to give it the prompt and the reader. Well, the prompt is this line of text, and the reader is reader. Boom. And the other one here, same format. So I'm going to take my prompt, I'm going to cut that to the clipboard, and now my inputs I is prompt, give it the text, and the reader is called reader. Done. And because we're no longer using a variable called text here, notice how Eclipse points out with a warning here, that's the yellow underline. You're not using this variable anymore, so we can go ahead and delete it. And that's a really good code practice, because now if we ever want to add some extra bells and whistles to prompting, we can just add the code into this sub here together, and it'll do it for everything that uses it. So a nice way to clean up your code.